Goeiedag, welkom. My name is Amareins, and today I will be doing my wrap up for October. I finished reading 5 books in October, 2 of which I had already started before, and 3 of which I completely read in October. Of this one, the first one is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan Maguire, book 2 in the Wayward Children series, a companion series about children who go through portals and end up in other worlds where they fit better. Also, sorry for the bad lighting. It's either this or looking into the sun, so I'll be doing this for now. Anyway, I felt like the first half of this book was not at all what I expected. It was about 14 to 16 years of backstory that didn't need to be there, especially since the narrator makes way too obvious appearances. And then the second half was actually a little bit more of the horror vibe, but it still did more to do something like a love story to me instead of like your regular horror. And although one of the main characters is gay, I think, I still did not really think this was very good. I made a full review of this, so I'll leave that either on the screen or in the description. And I will go on to the next book I finished. I have started this book way before. It's Mostly Harmless by Douglas Adams, part 5 in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Part 1 to 4 I listened to on the radio play audio, which I really enjoyed. It was really funny, but I discovered while reading this that the writing style of this story does not really suit what I like reading. It does suit for me what I like listening to, but not really reading, so this was not really my cup of tea. And because I did want to finish it, I skimmed a whole lot of this book. And since I enjoyed like part 1 to 4, I think if this would have been an audio radio play type thing, I think I would have really enjoyed this. So I'm not going to say a lot more about this, but go on to the next book, which is Only Human by J.D. Estrada. Seriously, one of the best books I have read this year. It's so creative and original, and definitely a recommendation to read. And I made a full review of it, which I will link, I think, either in the description or in the cards if I get to figure out how the cards work. So check that out if you want to know more, because I don't want to take too much time of my chance to do NaNoWriMo this year, so I will not review that book very deeply here. And then we have this nice little middle grade that was appealing to me for months before I even thought of seriously buying it. Wolfmother by Michelle Paver. And it has some mixed reviews. Some people find the characters not really enticing. They don't really care for them. What I mostly care about in this book is not necessarily the characters indeed. I mean, they are like nice middle grade characters. It's obviously written for middle grade people, but the world is so inventive. It's a fantasy world, but not your regular medieval fantasy world. It's set in prehistoric times, and even the religion of the people does a fit like to a T, I think. They believe in nature spirits and all kind of like the earth spirit, I think. They believe they have like 3 souls instead of 1. A clan soul, an earth soul, and a personal soul. And if they get separated when you die, you will for always be lost instead of going on your death journey to what happens after your life. So it was really interesting, and the plot of the fact that the main character, together with a wolf, needs to find a way to save the world because someone has let loose a giant bear, which is a demon, kind of. The back says so. 6,000 years ago, evil stalks the land. According to legend, only 12-year-old Torak and his wolf companion can defeat it. Their journey together takes them through the deep forests, across giant glaciers, and into dangers they have never imagined. Torak and Wolf are terrified of their mission, but if they do not battle to save their world, who will? And Wolf is a wolf cub, of course, but the fun thing in this is Torak did learn how to speak wolf language, or wolf talk as it is called in this book, and it is very funny and interesting to read how it works. It's mostly non-verbal with some howling sounds in it, and I thought it was very creative, and the reason why he can speak wolf talk is also very interesting. So I'm not going to spoil it because that's something that is revealed further on in the book. I like the travel element and just the regular what you have with an epic fantasy, the travel to save the world, not necessarily the depth of the characters, even though they have a lot of depth, but it's more so developed in the second half of the book. So I think I will go on reading this series, I don't know when, but it was a lot of fun. And then the final book I finished in October was Eliza and Her Monsters. I was at first even apprehensive of buying this book. Then I read the actual synopsis on the internet and in the book, and I got sort of interested a lot. Normally I don't really like reading a lot of YA, but this storyline very much appealed to me. Eliza battles very severe social anxiety, and at a certain point it switches over into quite a hefty depression, which is really interesting to read, and I could recognize some of my own depressions in this. Plus the fact that Eliza is the creator of a very, very popular webcomic, so this deals a lot with fandom. Fandom of Eliza, her comic, but also partly of a book series she was a fan of when she was about 12 years old. Which, when I read like the extra author information, turned out that the author actually has written that story, or maybe still is writing it. It's called The Children of Hypnos, and apparently she writes it on Tumblr. I don't have a Tumblr, and I'm not going to create one solely to read that story. But it was your contemporary, but it was just a lot of fun to read. I read this within a day, which I hardly ever do with books because I read so slow. But it was just so much fun. It was not hard to read. And I wondered all the time through what would happen with the characters when the major plot twist would take place. And even though it's written down in the synopsis, I'm not going to tell it here because I thought it would happen like very early on in the book, but it did happen 75% of the way through, which is kind of annoying because if I hadn't known, I think I might have been a little bit more surprised instead of just, oh, finally it happened. And just being able to predict what would happen afterwards, because it was kind of logical reactions of the characters. Anyhow, this is one of my favorite books of the year already, I can tell. It's so much fun. It's well written as well, except for like a couple of lines of text that seemed a little bit not flowing well, especially in the fan fiction parts of this book, but also in the regular writing. It still was a lot of fun. And yeah, this was it. This was my wrap up. Thank you for watching, en tot de keer!